Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today, got my Camaro 84 Z28 here, and this has been a project of mine for a while now, maybe about 3 years or so. And I kind of get to it here and there when I'm in between other things, other projects. The work I've already done to it, did all the brakes, new Summit exhaust system, did the alternator, cleaned up the interior, fixed the gauges, radio, did the T-top seals, serviced the transmission. It's running pretty good, but I just want to clean up a few more things in the engine compartment. Oh, I also redid the AC system, and then after a couple of months the charge leaked out again, so I gotta figure out what's going on with that. Bought a Edelbrock intake for it and an HEI distributor. It's still got the original GM factory computer hooked up, but the original carb is long gone. That wasn't there when I bought it. It's got a Holley 600 on it, which runs fine, and right now I believe that the factory computer is only controlling the timing and really not doing much else at this point. So I want to unplug the computer wiring harness, just get a standalone distributor put in there. It needs a water pump because it's making a noise, so I got a new water pump, and it needs valve cover gaskets. I'm leaking oil, so I figured might as well just take care of these things all at once. If I got to drain the coolant to do the manifold or the water pump, might as well just do them both at the same time. Take care of the valve cover gaskets. It's going to start taking things apart. Some about an hour and a half later, the water pump's just about ready to come out. It's annoying the way they have this because every accessory is bolted on top of the water pump. So you got to remove all the belts, move the alternator, you got to loosen the AC compressor to get the belt off, and you got to loosen 4 bolts on the power steering pump to move that. Lower hose clamp, this one here, the screw snapped. I'm trying to loosen it. The other one on the water pump end came off. And I always thought this car had no thermostat because it'd take forever for the temperature gauge to come up, but there was a thermostat in it. That says 195. That's probably the stock original thermostat. I don't know why it was taking so long for the temperature gauge to come up. But I'm going to put a new thermostat in, so see if that makes any difference. I got new heater hoses to put in. Remove the carb, the intake, and like I said, I want to move all the wires out that don't connect to anything anymore. I got the intake off, and everything looking pretty good in here, pretty clean. It's got like 95,000 miles, so looks like it has been pretty well maintained. So now I'm trying to get rid of the computer harness situation. So there were some things plugged in on this side. Yeah, this stuff was plugged in over here. This is like, I think like the map sensor and some other connector. And this is for the electronic spark control for the distributor. Is this, so got these out, and that connects to this right here. So I'm gonna work my way back and tracing it all the way back to here where it comes through from the ECM, the inside of the car. To undo the harness, I also had to get under the car to remove the transmission connection, which is for the lockup. And also on the back of the head there was a bolt that was holding a ground wire, and then also this was going to the knock sensor, which is kind of down below the motor mount, so I had to get under there. Now I have this inner fender pulled back. Looks like somebody's been living in there. Anyway, this is the bulkhead connector. So I'll undo this, and that should release the harness completely. So this was an interesting turn of events. Turns out this was not a harness that could be removed. This was just a pass-through. So this doesn't come apart. So what I have to do is go inside and remove the kick panel, and then it reveals the ECM, right? So unplug those two connectors, and then there was a U-clip that you slide out, and then that's the pass-through hole back there. Passed everything through. Now I got a hole, so I got to cover up the hole. Alright, so I managed to get this whole thing out. Did not have to cut or break one wire. Okay? So it is possible. Just got to figure out what to do about that hole in the side of the car there. So I just scraped the gaskets off and the sealant. Still got to clean it up a little bit more, but I'm calling it a night. Yeah. So yeah, probably one more day. I was not, today I had a little bit of time here and there. If I get a full day, I can probably get this all cleaned up and put back together, barring any unforeseen problems, but you know how that goes. Back at it today, so got the valve covers off, cleaned up all around the heads. I cleaned up this area and the front of the block. I'm just gonna do a little spray on that. Yep, just cleaning everything up, and yeah, then I'm gonna paint the alternator brackets, some other brackets, and then finally start putting everything back together. Thank you so much. I got an all day for your bullshit. It's the next day after the paint. Some of the paint really did not come out well at all. I mean, this looks freaking horrible. This is not terrible, but then there's some funny spots here. And this is freaking horrible. So I sometimes run into problems when I clean things with the mineral spirits. I don't know why. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's like this. So I'm gonna have to try to sand this and try again. So I Scotch-Brited this down, got it nice and smooth, cleaned it with just glass cleaner, and it still looks pretty horrible. I don't know if the paint went bad being in the garage over the winter, or it's just, it's having a, this enamel is having some kind of reaction with whatever the original paint is on these brackets. People say I skip over the difficulties in my videos. I don't think so. It's all mostly what I show. So on this one I tried with some primer. I put some primer on it. It seems to be adhering pretty well. So I'll let that dry in the sun, and then I'm gonna try, found this paint, this Eastwood paint. It's very old. I don't know when I got it, so I don't know if it's even gonna work, but we'll give that a try. And if that doesn't work, I have some flat black. I really don't feel like going out to the store. This is just like supposed to be like a quick thing. I wasn't even sure I was gonna paint these items, but I was like, might as well while everything's apart. Now this is really slowing me down. The Eastwood black was also a bust. It's coming out all uneven. No good. So I found this stuff, which I bought much more recently, and that seemed to work the best. The satin finish. It's not, you know, it's not fantastic or anything, but it looks good enough, I think. So, just waiting for these to dry out here in the sun, give another coat. Finally be done with this step. So this is the intake I got for it. It's the Edelbrock Performer EPS, which is a low rise, kind of like the Performer, and it's supposed to make a little bit more power than the standard Performer. So this is for 86 and down Chevy small block. And I got the gaskets, the Felpro for Chevy small block, 55 to 85. So everything looks like it fits, and I got the Ultra Black RTV, and I'm gonna start with the gaskets. I did a little smear around the water passages, and then the gaskets will go on dry otherwise. Did the bead along the back and front, overlapping up onto the gasket about 1/2 inch. So intake should be ready to go on now. Alright, so I got the intake on. Torqued the bolts to 30 foot-pounds as specified. I'm missing one bolt, so I left this back one out for now. I have a couple of different bolts left over, so I don't know what the deal is. I'm gonna have to figure that out. But for now, I've got 11 out of the 12 on there. So I'm gonna call it a night. Let this dry, and then the next day I can get back on this. We'll do the valve cover gaskets and put the valve covers on. For the valve covers, they were pretty clean already, but obviously I had to scrape off the residue of the prior sealant and gaskets. So I'm just using the same Ultra Black RTV. Tried to do a small bead around, trying not to make a big mess. And then I'm going to put the gasket on here and let these dry up for a little while before I put them on the car. And then when I go to actually install them, I'm not going to use any sealant between the gasket and the head. It'll just be between the valve cover and the gasket. Next is just cleaning the heads where the gasket is going to meet. So I've got that all cleaned up. This side's a little tricky, you know, dealing with the AC compressor as far as getting the valve cover in and out of there. So it turns out that it's not possible to get the driver's side valve cover on because of this stupid heat shield is blocking the valve cover from, you know, getting these studs through the hole and getting everything seated. So I'm going to attempt to turn out this stud and then get the valve cover in and then put the stud back in. The valve covers are on, and torque the nuts down to 45 inch-pounds, not foot-pounds. These are the 4 water pump attaching bolts, which I cleaned up on the wire brush and sprayed with the black. And then I used the satin granite on the water neck and the 2 heater hose fittings that go into the intake manifold. So the new distributor is from Summit. It's just a standard HEI replacement distributor. And I haven't done this in a very long time, but when I removed the distributor out of the car, I had the engine top dead center, at least what I believe to be. So if I can get this one to drop in and have the rotor pointing towards the #1 direction, you know, the direction of the #1 spark plug, it should be good. Okay, I got it to drop in, and the rotor is pointing in the general direction. I really wanted it a little bit more over here for the #1, so I'm gonna take it out. So I'm just going to use the long screwdrivers to just slightly turn the shaft, you know, where the slot is for the oil pump, just a little bit over, try to get that to move a little bit closer to #1. Also just put a little grease on the gear there. I'm not sure if it's necessary, but figured it can't hurt. Okay, there we go. Now this is pointing pretty much where I wanted it to. So the #1 spark plug wire on the rotor will be here, and the #1 on the engine is here. I also moved the timing mark on the balancer to, I believe I've got it about 6 degrees, which is what the base timing setting is specified for on this car. The 2 connections from the car, coming from the car, you've got the tach and the battery. So the battery is the pink, tach is the brown. That's what the beauty of this whole operation is. You can take all of the computer wiring out and you still have all the basic wiring that the car needs to run. And this will go here. Now I just have to decipher which spark plug wire goes to where and put them on the cap in the order of the firing order of the engine. I don't remember putting spark plugs in this car, but I mean, this thing is looking really clean. I mean, whatever it is, it's been in there for years, so just gonna go with these. Should be fine. So we're at about day 378 now, I think. At least it feels like it. This whole month of March was the most rain. It set a record for the most rain ever in my county. So it's been hard to get this, back together. So today was finally a day I had off and decent weather. So made a lot of progress today. It's still not quite done. Put the water pump on, thread sealant on all 4 of the water pump bolts. The pulley here for the water pump, thread locker blue on those bolts. I've got the heater hoses on. I've got the upper radiator hose on. I didn't get the lower one on yet. I've got all of the belts back on. Everything is tightened up. I've got all of the spark plug wires routed, hopefully to the correct spots on the distributor cap. Started putting the wiring back like this. I just have to clip this in. The other side is done. There was 2 plugs I put in the intake manifold. Close off the coolant passages. I bought an elbow for here for the vacuum for the brakes. Somehow I lost it. It was kicking around the other day, a few days, a week ago, whatever. Can't seem to find it, but I'm calling it a night. It's getting late, and I've had enough. I've been pretty much doing this all day. So hopefully one more day. I got to put the lower hose on, the carburetor, fill it up with coolant, set the timing, and hopefully that's going to be it. So I got this from eBay. It's a fan turn on switch that goes in the head. So this is the original one. The fan would come on not until about 220 degrees. So this one is supposed to come on at 200 and then go off around 185. So that should keep everything cooler, hopefully. Now let's see if it fits. 3 gates NPT is the size. Thread sealant, and it goes in here. The hole is right below this part of the manifold into the head. It's a little tricky. Oh, I think I got it finally.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
It looks like something Avery would make. It works.
Oh, we gotta do a fuel line.
Fuel line.
Got the wire plugged in for the temperature switch for the fan. Got the carburetor on. Linkages hooked up. I got this Edelbrock fuel filter and some braided hose to connect to the hard line here. I got the PCV. I moved it from that side to this side because it's got this port for it on the carburetor on this side. This vacuum line is from the car. I think it operates the heat, HVAC, I'm not sure. I had to do a little adapter. Plugged it into this full vacuum port on the carb. This is not full vacuum. This is throttle, whatever, vacuum, which is going to go to the vacuum advance. But I want to set the timing first before I hook the vacuum advance up. so that is plugged off for now. All the wires are plugged in. Put coolant in the rad. It took almost a full container of the concentrated and almost a full container of plain water, and that should be it. We'll give it a try. Oh, maybe too much choke. I'll try like that, maybe. Something seems wrong. Maybe timing is not good. I don't know. I wonder if I've got the timing completely. Something is definitely wrong. The timing. I'm thinking the distributor is 180 out, which is a major rookie mistake, but whenever there's a 50-50 chance, I always lose. So I brought the timing mark back up to the top and took off the cap and pointing the opposite direction of number one. So I'm gonna pull this out, spin it around and drop it back in, and hopefully that fixes our problem, gets this thing started. Give another try. Okay, now it's even worse. That is definitely worse. Great. So I had it right. So what's the problem? Wow. Now I'm getting absolutely nothing. Oh boy. Is this distributor shot? Or what? Like, what is the deal? Oh, that was weird. Put everything back the way it was initially, and now it starts up. Wait for it to warm up a little, and then I'm gonna set the timing. I don't think I see any leaks. Right now the temperature gauge on the dash is not working, so I'm gonna have to look into why that is. That shouldn't be. I think the thermostat are open. I'm seeing flow now through the radiator core, so I'm gonna just get my infrared temperature thing. Right now the initial timing is very high. It's like 26 or 27, so I'm gonna back that down. So last night after I wrapped this up, something occurred to me that I did not think of, obviously, while I was doing this. The problem I'm having with the gauge is because I've hooked the wrong sensor to the wrong thing. So I thought the sensor over here was for the dashboard gauge. Turns out I thought the sensor over here was for the cooling fan relay. Turns out that's on the other side, on that head. This side is the temperature gauge on the dash. So what I've essentially done is I've replaced the sending unit with a fan switch, and that's why in the beginning when the car was warming up it was reading 0, and then I guess as soon as it hit 200 the gauge pegged all the way to the top. It's just an on-off switch. So unfortunately now I got to drain the coolant again and switch the two sides. Temperature sending unit goes on the driver's side towards the front of the head, and then the fan switch will go on the rear side of the passenger head. So we got the fan sensor, fan switch in. This will be the first modification that we have to make because the original switch has this weird pin connector which uses this, which is not going to fit on the standard spade connector of the new switch. So I'm going to have to clip this connector off and use one of these generic connectors. Now this is making much more sense. So it's been warming up for a few minutes and the gauge is responding how it normally should. Now we'll see, you know, because yesterday the fan was kicking on hot. I was like, wow, this new switch isn't really much better than the old switch. That's because it was still connected to the old switch. So the fan should kick on sooner. Thermostat didn't open yet. Should be opening at this point very soon. Starting to feel a little warm. Oh yes. now the water just went down. Probably should add some more. There we go. Alright, so it's a little higher than 200, but better than the original switch, which would wait till about 230, 225. Yeah, that gauge would hit 220 or more before the fan would come on previously. I can see it coming down. Okay, just went for a little drive to check everything out, and the good news is car's running good. Don't see any leaks yet. Driving good, everything there is okay. There's a problem with this cooling fan situation, so it looks like, you know, it's switching the fan on correctly around 200, but then it just never switches off. So while I have this open, I figure might as well fix the broken antenna. So I'm up to this part now. So the cable goes through the side of the car, so I was able to get the grommet out. Now it's here, and of course then you don't make it easy. Then it goes behind all of this stuff, and then it comes out here. This is, it plugs into the back of the radio here. So here's the end. So now I've got to fish it out. So of course that did not work. So plan B. All right, I've got the replacement in. This is the one screw right there. It holds it. I got the cable through with the grommet. This part, yeah, so this is the little trim piece, and then the locking nut. So I'm just gonna, before I put these on, I'm just gonna paint them some trim black just so they look a little bit nicer. So routing that cable was really no problem. I was able to just kind of push it with my finger like way back behind here, and it probably is right where it should be. However, now we have a more serious problem, which I just noticed, of course. The end that plugs into the radio is smaller than the original one. I don't know why that would be. I'm only guessing. Maybe this was from a different year. I thought these antenna connections were standard. So now I've got a problem because it doesn't fit. I need this end. Great. So this is the patch I made for the hole where the ECM harness went through. I just took a piece of sheet metal, cut a square, and then RTV'd it in. That should hold it, and also it's not completely permanent. If anyone ever really wanted to put things back to original, you could peel that off and put it back. I'm just going to put some paint on it so it doesn't get rusty being out here. Somebody had previously painted over this trim piece. It's plastic, and I was able to remove a lot of it with lacquer thinner, but I think I'm going to take it off and respray it satin black. Also, this is supposed to be the color of the body. Somebody painted over this with black too, so I think I'm going to, while I have this off, I'm going to clean this and spray that red, and probably clean up these brackets too. Now that the engine looks so good, it makes everything else look kind of crappy. These are the kind of details that keep me up at night. I just been meaning to do this for a long time. Maybe people wouldn't even notice that this was incorrect, but just when you look under here, you just feel like, yeah, something doesn't look right. I'm just hoping this paint works. My track record with paint lately has not been good. Ended up doing about 4 coats and it worked out fine. So you just need to get a base coat on there for it to adhere. Just waiting for it to dry a little bit. And unfortunately, it doesn't really match like I thought it would. You know, the cap is virtually a perfect match to the car. But then as you can see, I mean, it's just not the same what's in the can. It's much more orange, but it'll have to do. Should look better than before, hopefully. Just put everything back together. Looking pretty good, I think. So I went to Best Buy and I was surprised, but they actually had this adapter that I was looking for. So I'm gonna go try it out now and see if it's gonna work. Looks like we might be good here.
Particular when
Alright, calling that a success. So this is the adapter. Apparently, I was looking in here, 1990 Chevy Camaro, 1990 to 2002, used this different style of antenna connector. So apparently the one that I got, the new antenna setup was from a 90 or up Camaro. So I'm gonna do I'm gonna attempt trying one more sensor in the hopes that this will actually work. This is a painless name brand, at least, so I'll have a little more faith. This is supposed to be 195 on, 185 off. Well, the fan kicks on, but it still won't kick off. Reading like on the infrared gun, like 175 on the thermostat and 160 on the radiator. So I don't know what the deal is. Don't mind that noise. That's just a tailpipe rattling against the bottom of the car. Been having nothing but problems with these fan temperature switches. So I'm doing a little experiment. I got them on the stove, dipped in the water. So I'm currently heating up. It's like 120. So the contact should close. Maybe coming on at 200 and off at 185. This is the original one that was in the car. The third one is still in the car. I'm approaching 200 now. So this one, it didn't kick on until like pretty high, like 212, which is as hot as the boiling water will get. And then it didn't shut off until about low 170s, which makes sense why it's never turning the fan off, because the thermostat is at 180, so it's not really getting below that. And I had this one, which was really the first one I bought, which didn't fit. I bought the wrong size, too small. But this one actually was very accurate. It came on, it closed the contacts at 200, and it opened it, which would turn the fan off at pretty much exactly 185. So maybe I will try to find like a bushing, like an adapter. This one might actually work. I got this 3/8 by 1/8 bushing from Ace, and I even had to drill out some of it because the threads were so deep that it got too narrow for this even to get in there. So I think it'll work now. So I'm just going to swap out the painless one. That's the latest one I had tried that didn't work. Okay, finally we have success. Finally we have a fan switch that works. I don't know if this is the 4th attempt or what, how many I've done. It feels like 4 or 5. So let the car warm up, and got to a little bit over 200, kicked on, came down, and it kicked off. So I hope it continues to work, because if it does, that was like the last piece of the puzzle to complete this latest project of the engine compartment overhaul. So I'm going to drive it around, test it out a little bit more, but hopefully that's it, and we can call this good. This is probably one of the longest videos I ever did, but just a lot of things just ended up snowballing into this project, and just had to cram in a lot. So thanks for watching, and please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.